Joining me now in the studio is Paul Junge, who's running for the 8th Congressional District right here in Michigan. Paul, thank you so much for joining me.
Courtney, great to be here.
So let's just get started. Why are you running?
You know, I've been running now for a year here in Michigan's 8th District. As you probably know, it's Genesee County, Saginaw County, Bay County, Midland County. And as I'm talking with voters throughout the district, they see a need for change. You know, I can ask them the question, and they can answer without me even prompting them. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the answer almost universally is no, they're not. They see prices that are higher at the gas pump, in the grocery store, when they pay for rent and insurance. And they want to see a change in this district, and I'm trying to be responsive to that. So when you ask the question, you know, why am I running? I think it's to try to represent the voters in this district who want to see a change, who want to see an economy that works for working families, who want to feel safer in their communities, who want to see a lawless southern border secured, and they really just want to see change.
You mentioned some of those issues when you're talking to people. What are the other issues that they are talking to you about?
You know, it can be a wide variety of things. I talk to parents who are homeschooling their children. I go to, say, for example, in Bay County, I go to a meeting of Township Association, and they say, you know, the Coast Guard is talking about cutting back on their emergency response. And so I say, hey, if I'm a federal elected official, I can work to make sure that the Coast Guard is able to supplement emergency response in Huron Bay. So it can be a wide array of issues, and the thing I intend to bring to voters throughout Michigan's 8th District is a commitment to listen to them and be their voice in Washington to respond to their needs.
When it comes to, you mentioned that they care about those grocery prices, inflation, things like that. How would you change that in Washington? You
know, it's not going to be easy or immediate for a first-term member in Congress to do that, but I think among the things we need to do is make sure we have an all-of-the-above energy policy. My opponent has imposed restrictions on energy availability to Michiganders, which in a bill that would drive up energy costs by about $200 a month. That is absolutely the wrong approach. So one thing I'll do in Washington is say, hey, look, we have tremendous resources for energy throughout this country, and we should make sure we're doing that to help keep energy prices low. And you know, I think I've already mentioned that inflation across the board is a real problem, and if energy prices are lower, that can help to solve those types of problems. Another big problem I see, and I hear this from people, is you know, we just feel like we send all our money to Washington, and yet we don't see the services that we need right here. So I share with people the fact that of the 7 most wealthy counties in this nation, 5 of those 7 wealthy counties are in Washington, D.C., and we should have more of that money here in Genesee County, more in Saginaw County, Bay and Midland. And my commitment to the voters will be, we've got to cut back the size of the federal government, make sure that services are coming here to Michigan's 8th District.
You mentioned about that commitment to the people here, the people in Genesee County, the people in Saginaw, the people in Bay County. Mm-hmm. You've been traveling across these counties campaigning. How do you ensure that if elected and going to Washington that you won't forget about these people?
Well, listen, I'm committed because I've gotten to know the people in this community. I live here in Genesee County, and it's impossible not to be touched by the stories that you hear from people. I mentioned the story of Coast Guard services, emergency services. I talked to a man whose son was called to service in the military at 9/11 and who took his own life just a few months ago. And when you hear these kind of personal stories, it's almost impossible not to say, I'm going to be committed to the people of Michigan's 8th District to respond to their needs, whether it's for better schools, whether it's for an economy that works for working families, whether it's just to make sure our communities are safer. So the people of this district absolutely have my commitment that I will stay committed to their interests, to their needs, and to be their voice in Washington.
When it comes to their commitment to safety, they want safe communities. Mm-hmm. We often hear from people that that's their top priority when it comes to crime, especially here in Genesee County. How would you make a difference in Washington and bring that back here to Genesee County, to Saginaw, to Bay?
Well, part of my professional background is I was once a criminal prosecutor. So I have worked with crime victims. I've listened to their stories. I've worked with police officers to make sure we bring justice, make sure we bring safer communities. And I think I'll bring that sensibility as a legislator in Washington to make sure that we have the backs of police, to make sure that we're focused on making sure we have safe communities. I talked to to residents in Flint. I talk to residents in Saginaw. I talk to residents throughout this district. And as you indicate, one of their key interests is we got to feel safe. We got to feel safe going to school. We've got to feel safe walking our streets, being in our communities. And as I say, my background as a prosecutor, I will bring that commitment to making sure we have the resources and the commitment to make that happen here in Michigan's 8th District.
We've already seen a lot of people vote already in this election. Your plea to people who are undecided at this point, who haven't cast their ballots.
Thank you for that opportunity. As I said, I think as I've been campaigning for nearly a year now, I talk with people and I ask them, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And whether it's increased prices, gas, groceries, insurance, rent, whatever it might be, whether it's safety and community, whether it's concern about the southern border, I would say that the presidential candidate at the top of my ticket, Donald Trump, and certainly myself, have that commitment to solving those problems. And I would suggest that my opponent is not nearly as committed. She's more committed to a left-wing agenda of what the elites on the left want. I will be committed to what people here in Michigan's 8th District want and need, and that's my commitment, and that's the commitment I make as I ask for their vote.
Paul, is there anything else that you want to add that we did not talk about?
Courtney, I really do appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with you this afternoon. And really, as I said, I've been campaigning now for nearly a year, talking to people in Midland County, Bay County, Saginaw County, and here in Genesee County. And I really do feel a connection with those voters, a commitment that I'm going to be listening and working for them. And as I said, I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with you today.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us. And Paul's name will be on the ballot in that 8th Congressional District here in Michigan.